Well, I let my nephew choose from the blues. I know, that's so lame. Look, moving on. Today's episode, we're going to take a look at the blue watch that he selected, which, as you can tell in the title, spoiler alert, is the Lacz Denton. I think that's how we're saying this brand name. It's the all blue Submariner style watch, which obviously pays homage to the Rolex Smurf. Boom. My nephew had hit me up asking for some recommendations on a blue sports watch that he could wear since his new high school colors are blue and white. So I sent him some watches to check out. Most of them were homages, and this is the one he selected. Now, I gotta be honest, I'm not that surprised he picked this one since he already owns the Rolex Submariner in black. Now he has blue. So today we'll take an in-depth look at this piece from this brand so you can decide if this would be a watch that you may want to pick up. Now, in case you're new to the channel, my name's Dave. May the Schwartz be with you, and hey, did you know? It's a great day to wear a watch. Today I am rocking my Tudor. This is my Prince Date Day, reference M76213-007-0007. Great piece. I am actually doing a side-by-side comparison coming up soon of this watch with the Holland's Date Day, which is a two-tone also. So we're going from $3,000 watch, comparing it with a $100 watch. I think it'll be interesting, so stay tuned for that. If you're not subscribed, consider hitting that subscribe button and hitting the bell. All right, there's my shameless plug. Let's move on. Now, first I gotta say, on this watch, it is a newer version that they've updated because I watched some other reviews that are a bit older on this brand, and those watches only had some weird 70-click bezel. I mean, 70? It doesn't make sense. I don't know where that came from. 70 clicks. Anyways, also the Cyclops magnification on those watches was only 1.5 times. So here are the specs on this newer updated version. We have a case diameter of 40.5 millimeters wide, 44.5 with the crown. The lug to lug is 47.4 millimeters. However, because the bracelet has male end links, the true end link to end link measurement is 51.7. The watch comes in at around 12.3 millimeters thick and has a 20 millimeter lug width. The bracelet itself does taper from 20 millimeters down to 16, and the width of the clasp is right at 18 millimeters. While I personally love this blue color of the ceramic bezel and this brilliant sunburst dial, the Rolex Smurf has a matte blue dial. It's more similar to the Tudor Pelagos look, so if you want something that's going to be more close to the Smurf dial, you'll want to consider a different brand. And I was a bit disappointed that the watch did not reflect this dial finish in the photos online, which can be a bit misleading, so beware. This sunburst dial, however, does shift from black to that royal blue color in direct lighting and in the sun. And again, the Smurf is a white gold, or what Rolex calls gray gold, so the color is going to be a bit different since this watch is using 316L stainless steel on the case and the bracelet. It does have both satin finish as well as high polish finish, which is common with this style of homage watch. And the finishing on the case is done pretty well. There's this nice break between the polish and satin at the lugs, and the corners and the edges are not overly sharp like I've seen on some other homages out there. There's also a nice break between finishing at the crown, and I like that they've combined diagonal and radial finishing on the case back. It shows that there's some extra thought and detail that went into the finishing of this particular watch. The finishing on the 3-link oyster style bracelet is also done pretty good with venting between the links. These are held in place with screw pins, and the clasp has rounded edges so that the corners are not overly sharp. And this clasp does feature that 5mm diver extension that can be pulled out with force, and it also snaps tightly into place. The clasp is similar to the Rolex Oyster lock clasp, so that has a spring hinge mechanism that's being used. Now, I gotta say, the tolerances on the clasp and the bracelet leave a lot to be desired. There's just a lot of flex and give on this piece, and this is one of those spots where the watch falls short. Also, you can see the security flap does not line up perfectly with the edges of the clasp when looking at it from the side. Now, on the wrist, I have to admit, the watch is pretty well balanced, and it's really comfortable once you have it sized appropriately. The blue ceramic bezel has the right thickness to it, it's not overly chunky, and it has just a slight bit of overhang from the case, which allows for an easy grip when turning the bezel, like that. And the lume pip is just a bit too tall in my opinion, but it's centered nicely, and the engraving on the indices and the Arabic numerals in the bezel is done nice as well. It does have a 120 click unidirectional bezel, has just a tad bit of back play. I wish the action on the bezel was a bit tighter. It doesn't require much effort to turn the bezel. It's actually a little bit loose, I would say. Now, the coin edge, however, is just right in terms of the sharpness. It has a nice consistent sound when turning it as well. The flat glass on the watch does test as sapphire, as well as the 2.5-time magnifying Cyclops. However, there does not appear to be any AR coating applied to either. There is also an exhibition caseback that's covered with mineral glass, where we can see the movement powering this homage watch is the Miyota 8215, which unfortunately does not allow for hacking, but it does allow for hand winding. It's your basic 21 joule movement, beating at 21,600 vibrations per hour, has around 40 hours of power reserve. Surprisingly though, the rotor on this watch is not loud at all. The crown does screw down. It also engages and disengages from the threads pretty well, and the hand winding feels okay. Position 2, hand movement is nice and smooth when adjusting the time. We see that the date change starts to click over at around 10:30 p.m. and does click over right before midnight. In position 1, the date change clicks over nicely, and we see the font on the date wheel has a crisp, clean legibility to it. The watch has applied hour markers that are correct in size, but placement is slightly off when compared to the Rolex Submariner. You can see where the 12 o'clock hour marker is placed just a tad too high, where it's covering some of the minute indices. The circular hour markers touch the other minute indices, so that's just slightly off, but the handset is correct in terms of proportions, as well as the finishing is acceptable. It could be better, but it's not terrible. I've seen worse. And the lume is applied evenly, which is surprising. The printing of the minute markers around the chapter ring looks nice and clean. Lume on this watch is surprisingly good, and while the brand doesn't state what lume is being used, it does mimic the chromalite color blue, and has a nice even look between the bezel, the hands, and the hour markers. From a full charge, the lume is still legible in the dark, although it's dim for many hours. Again, really surprising for the price. And we see branding, name, and logo printed in white at the 12 o'clock position, an indication of automatic movement, and water resistance rating printed at 6 o'clock. There's also the branding etched into the crown and the clasp. Lastly, I want to showcase this watch with a few strap swaps to just kind of give an idea of how versatile this watch could be. Now, some of these combos may be subjective, but let me know which one's your favorite down in the comments. My personal favorite is this incredibly comfortable blue silicone strap from Strap Atelier with these curved lugs that fit this piece perfectly. It's the right color blue. This is a banger combo in my opinion. Okay, so overall, this is actually a really well done homage in terms of finishing and materials. The movement used is not my favorite. I mean, I would have loved to have seen a higher 9000 series Miyota movement used, or even a higher beat Etta or Sellita clone, but my gripes are pretty small. Things like the bezel being too loose or the placement of the hour markers. I mean, if you're looking for a blue Smurf style homage, check this one out because I think you'll really enjoy it if you don't mind that sunburst dial. I'll put links in the description of where to pick one up, and depending where you choose to buy it from, the price can range from about $89 to $129. I gotta say, I was hoping my nephew was gonna pick the Specht und Son homage of the Patek Aquanaut, because I really wanted to see that watch and like just check it out. But he picked this one, so I just decided like screw it. I'm gonna gift him this watch, and I'm gonna buy the Aquanaut homage. So that is on its way. Probably by the time this video drops, I'll already have that watch and be spending some wrist time with it. I mean, I figured, heck, we're doing an homage review for a $40,000 watch. Let's look at an homage of a $50,000 watch and kind of go from there. So stay tuned for that if you think it's something you might enjoy. As always, I will look forward to seeing you guys and gals at the next one. Till then, may the Schwartz be with you. Take care.